Chaim Livracha. To life and to blessings. So we all want to have a better life. The question is, how do you accomplish that? So for most of humanity, it's accomplished having a better life by what you get in life, right? If you won the lottery, oh, now I'm going to have a really good life, $1.8 billion, I think, was the latest lottery. They came out Nebuch only with, $800 million. Oh, life has gotten better, right? If one has their health, if one has their wealth, and one has relationships that are meaningful, and so on and so forth, you've got a good life, right? And if we don't have it, what do we try to do? We try to control how we can get those things. It's difficult to control your health. I mean, yes, you got to do what you can. Your wealth also might be difficult, but we try. Our relationships, we also try to manipulate and control so we can have a better life. But of course, that's living without Tanya. Right? That's living with our animal soul. And Tanya teaches us, in that instance, you're out of control. And that's why you want to control others. The need to control anybody else is because we're out of control. So Tanya is here to teach us how to have self-mastery and be in control of yourself. Right? When you have self-control, you will find that you have no need to control another person. The more you have that self-control, the less you have the self-control, right? Or the self-mastery. Self-control is not really depicted properly, but the self-mastery, the more you need to master others, to control them. Live with that today, and you'll see how much of your day you're trying to control others, and how much of your day are you trying to master yourself. Think about that, and I promise you, you will have a rude awakening. You'll awaken to something about you that you were not so privy to, so honest about necessarily. You'll see things a little differently about where you're at, which is good. Self-awareness. And from there, welcome to Tanya. I'm Rabbi Ronnie Fine, coming to you from Chabad Zechon Kadesh in Montreal, Canada, where it's a privilege and a pleasure to share with you the Tanya. We begin chapter 25. Chapter 25 is about, how can I actually have self-mastery? And where self-mastery is not in my feelings. No, that's what the world wants. That's a mistake, because the righteous will have that. Self-mastery is in what I do that's aligned with God, how I speak, that's aligned with God, and my willful cogitated choice of what I think is also to be aligned with God. That's called self-mastery. Okay. How's that possible? Well, says the Alter Rebbe, this is based on the verse in the title page, the one verse that the entire 53 chapters of Tanya is based on in the book of Dvarim, in Deuteronomy. For this thing, your relationship with God, Torah and mitzvahs, is very close to you. So we explain chapters 9 through 17, how it is close through the mind having dominion over the heart. Chapters 18 began a new section and concluding with chapter 25 on how we have what's called the Ava Mesuteres, the hidden love within us. And that hidden love is very near to us. That's what we've been explaining till now. And therefore, says the Alter Rebbe, and he explains, why is it very near? Because it's in our Berushusai. It's we're capable. We have the permission, we have the capability to free ourselves, to rid ourselves of the spirit of folly. So we explained yesterday the spirit of folly, right? That notion of doing the wrong thing that disconnects us from God is really something extraneous to us. And we have the capability at any given moment to not allow that spirit of folly, that notion, that talk that is my first responder of the animal soul, that it should control me. Because that's when I become out of control, when it controls me, right? Because when it does that, it will make me insensitive to the fact that I'm creating a disconnect from God at that moment. That's what it's going to do, allowing that spirit of folly to enter, right? And therefore, I'm going to do something wrong. I'm going to do something sinful. Sin is in action, in our words, and in thought. Not the original thought that comes to us, because that we can't control. But if it's a negative thought of someone, of a loved one that I shouldn't entertain, then that's a sinful thought, right? So we have that capability. And furthermore, sometimes we're forgetful that we really have a love of God in our soul, and we desire to unite with Him through the fulfillment of mitzvahs, right? So we are capable of always remembering and arouse the love of God within us that's latent in our heart. It's hidden, and that's why we call it a hidden love, even though that's an oxymoron. Love is expressive, and here it's called hidden, right? Here it's called hidden because I've got to reveal it. So even the most hardened sinner is endowed with this latent love. And this is the meaning of it says in Shema that we should love God with b'chol levavcha, in all of your heart, that we should serve God with love and an emotion. And not just with love, but also with fear. Fear means fear of separation. When you love someone so much, you also fear being separate from them, right? So likewise with God, that love carries with it, the flip side of it is fear. Fear, not fear of punishment, right? Because that's not, like, love of God means love of God, not what God does for me. I love you, God, because you are, because of you, look what I got in my life. So it's what you got in life that you really love, and He's just, the provider. No. Love of God. Actually, what's that love of God? It comes from the soul. That the soul just wants to be connected. Why does it want to be connected, the divine soul? Why? Because it is a piece of God. So therefore it just wants to be connected to its source of God itself. Is that logical? No. It's not logical at all. No, it's not logical. It's divine. It's the nature. Logic means that you could, logic is you're thirsty, take a drink, right? Do you love the drink? No. You just don't want to be thirsty, so you're taking a drink. Okay. Right? Logic means cause and effect, means to an end. Logic means that I want to sit in a comfortable chair. Well, no. So is it the chair that I want? No, I want the comfort. So I'm sitting in the chair because I want something. This, right. It's based on, right. The soul wants to be connected, not because it's getting something from the connection. That's logic. Logic would say, I want to be connected because there's a gain in the connection. So I want to know this millionaire because I want to do business with that millionaire. Oh, do you really want to know them? No, you just want to do business with them. That's logic, though. That's a means to an end. That's logic is rationale is about consequence, is about means to an end, right? When we say here that you want to be connected, right? A mother wants to be connected to her child. Well, if it's because, well, I want to be connected because, when I grow old, I want to have someone who'll take care of me. Well, that's a means to an end. That's obviously transactional, and that's not a true love, right? True love is, I want to be connected. It's my child. A piece of me is in the child. A piece of the child is in me. And is that rational? No, it's beyond rationale. It's the nature of something. So the nature of our soul is we're a part of God, and therefore we want to be connected, period. And because we want to be connected, we don't want to be disconnected. That's called love and fear. Connect, disconnect. Is that clear? Now, as we explained at the beginning of this section, chapter 18, 19, we explain that the nature of the soul is so much so that it wants to be connected, that the soul is ready to give up its life. That it shouldn't be disconnected from God by adopting another faith, another religion, and is ready to give up its life. Right? How much easier then it is not to die for God, but to live for God by giving up your appetite. And I really want this. Right? Hey, but it's not kosher. Okay. I don't have an appetite for it anymore. Metaphorically, right? This happens to be kosher. Right? I give it up. It's much easier to give that up, right, for the love of God than to die for God. Right? Much easier to do that, right? Make sense? Even if it's just a rabbinic law, to give it up, not just biblical law, to give up the desire that I have, that my animal soul wants something, it lusts something, it's addicted to something, right? Maybe addiction makes it a little harder, but still, that's still easier than giving up your life for God, which the soul would do. So, meaning that if I really want this, I'm capable at any time, to at any moment, to express my love of God by doing a mitzvah, as we're doing now, learning Torah, and to connect to God as through the learning, and that I will stay away from anything that turns me away from God, from the fear of that disconnect. And that, even though you might say, if I do the sin of idolatry, oh, that's a complete disconnect. If I do a minor sin of, maybe, I don't know, maybe this didn't have a kosher symbol to it. Maybe it's not kosher. I didn't check it out. I don't know, right? And that's a much smaller, infraction, if you will, than idolatry. But the truth is, both of them, in the moment, whether it's a small infraction or a huge, is a disconnect from God, period. Right? The after effect is a different, right? The consequence is a different point. But in that moment, right, there's a disconnect. Ezekiel.
So do what people feel connected when they're doing idolatry?
To what are they connecting? To the idolatry. To the idolatry.
They feel connected to this.
That's why. Why would someone serve idolatry? Unless they felt either that, not necessarily they feel a connection, but maybe they feel a benefit, or they hope to have a benefit, right? So they are doing it for for the benefit that they are perceiving, whether it's the experience itself, whether it's Zeus is going to listen to me and I'm going to win the war, or the God of love will bring love to my life, whatever it is, right? Yes.
Someone is feeding him inside the klippah, but he's also need the divine sparkle to act, to live on earth.
Right.
Is it like this?
Right, but what are we doing now? True. Yes. But what are we doing now? The Alter Rebbe wants to bring to us that we're capable at any moment, at any time, right? At all time, as a result, that we can have self mastery. That's what he's explaining to us, right? That what does that mean? In two words: connect through a mitzvah, and not disconnect through a transgression. Right? That's how it'll be, right? So think about it. If let's say you are in a moment doing you're engaged with a challenge in life, right? You're dealing with someone who's difficult, or you've got a difficult, person at work, or someone, a loved one in your life. Or you're hungry, and if you're Jewish, there's only if you're Jewish, and the food's not kosher, but you're hungry, and there's no kosher food to be found, right? I mean, there's always kosher food to be found because you can always buy an apple or a banana, right? If you could buy something else, you could probably buy that too, for the most part, right? Anyway, just giving it as an example. And so what the Alter Rebbe is saying here is that think about it this way. Is this going to connect me to God? This action, these words that I'm about to say, or the thought that I'm thinking now, is it connecting me to God, or is it disconnecting me to God? We're capable of thinking that all the time. All the time. At any given, engagement in life, situation in life, we can always come back to that. And this is what he's saying here, right? Does that make sense? Even when sometimes, you could do a minor infraction, and I'll repent afterwards. I'll do tshuva. So, not such a big deal. Even that, we're capable of overcoming that notion, because even though you repent afterwards, and you can repair, of course, you can repair. But the notion over here is, right, and that's what's, the godly soul wants, is the connection, and not to be disconnected from the divine, is that we're capable of always introducing that into our lives and leading our lives that way. Wow. That's extremely empowering. That is unbelievable. The Alter Rebbe believes in me more than I believe in myself. Because, think about it. If you go on social media and you're going to follow any relationships coach on social media, I'll tell you, you're going to have a disconnect in marriage and then a disconnect, but then as long as there's repair, it's good. Here, what the Alter Rebbe is saying is that if we have self-mastery, so we can always be connected and never be disconnected, right? As I say, do you know why men get married? I can say this for men. Pesach?
Because they have to, because it's a mitzvah.
You know why they do? It's because that's the only way you can become a Beinoni. Or at least be in the running as a Beinoni in training. Right? How so, Pesach? Because we'll always have someone who will correct us in the most minute thing in our lives. Like, come on, but 97% I'm pretty good. Right? Oh, but no, you need complete self-mastery. So marriage means the opportunity that we could become not just a Beinoni in training, but a Beinoni.
Moshe Rabbeinu spoke gently to the women and harshly to the men. We don't have Moshe Rabbeinu to speak harshly to us, so we're not going to matter.
The Moshe Rabbeinu in your life, huh? Yes. Yeah. Huh?
What's a baby?
Who we're talking about? Someone who has complete self-mastery.
Okay.
right? Someone who has complete self-mastery of thought, speech, and action. That's what a Beinoni is. Okay? Any other questions, any comments? This is very powerful. Jeff is asking on Facebook, is following and strongly supporting another leader, like let's say a political leader ideology, does that not line up with the 630 commands of God considered adultery? Very good question. That,
What is the question?
he's asking if in your support of a political leader, is that kind of like taking you away from God? So you can support a political leader, but only as far as politics goes, not as far as your soul goes. Right? For the political, for what's good politically for the Jewish people, that's how a Jew should go politically, right? What's good for the Jewish community. And what that is good, that's, obviously will be open for debate, but that's, whatever that is. But we shouldn't bind ourselves to a political leader as we bind ourselves to God, obviously, because then that would be, like you say, Jeff, would be in a form of adultery or idolatry, maybe, maybe both of them, right? But that doesn't mean you can't have a political bent to you, and what you feel would be the best thing for the Jewish community that you live in, or in Israel, or whatever the case may be.
Also, it's clear that whatever the best thing for the Jewish people is also the best thing for everybody else.
Ah, yes, thank you, Pesach. Yes, very clear that what's good for the Jews is good for the rest of humanity. Because what the Jews want is to bring more goodness and godliness in this world. That's what's good for the Jews. So if, as opposed to other people or communities, will do what's good for them for power purposes, for political purposes, for just, whereas the Jewish people will look at based on what Torah teaches us what's good, and therefore based on that will be good for all of humanity. Yeah, thank you. Good point. Yes. And the opposite is very true, as we see. That is very obvious in the world today. Yeah. Yes.
I don't know if it's the right time to ask for that, but yesterday I had a discussion with the Christian people, and it was like a kind of confrontation, but he was seeking for advice. His problem is a Christian problem, so I gave him a Jewish answer, but he was sad because, and his mission of Christianity, it's to share the most possible and convince
Right.
people to come to his faith.
Right.
So that's for him. It's important to
Right.
do that. And his home family, he was not able to do that, and he was feeling sad for that. My answer was the Jewish point of view. It's that we don't try to convince people to
Right.
come to us. We shine, and if the people want to come, they come.
Right.
And sometimes we refuse them to be sure they really want to come.
Right.
So,
Very good. Very good.
That's the answer I give to
Excellent.
him. To have a discussion with Christian when they have some kind of opposition, it is to have, because he believes in something for Jewish people, it's idolatry.
Right.
If I told him that, he would say that I have no sense to say that. So
You have what?
if I say him,
Yeah, if you say that,
he will reject me. So it is correct to don't tell him what Jewish people think about because
Right.
I
I have to think about that.
It's like
I have to think about that, but that's outside of this. So yeah. So let's not for now. But it's a good question. Excellent question. Excellent question. A wife is for reflection. I know for reflection. It's, I don't know if I would put it that way, but it creates that. Yes. Okay. All right, folks, I don't see any other questions. We're going to go to Rambam. A second day into Rambam. Okay, folks, amazing. All right, maybe a great day for everybody. Thank you.